It's Thursday, April 8th. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, is calling for its members to mobilize production facilities and modernize the vaccine platform in countries of the Americas. The call follows reports of vaccine nationalism, which is being blamed for a shortage of doses in the region. PAHO's director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, says more than 1.3 million new cases were reported in the region last week. She notes while PAHO continues to distribute vaccines already procured, global limitations on manufacturing vaccines has made it difficult for the region to gain access to COVID-19 vaccines.
We see the unrest and the anxiety in many of our countries because of this.
According to Dr. Etienne, producing vaccines within the region would be challenging, but it could be done.
Vaccine production for approved COVID-19 vaccines needs to increase worldwide because of the fact that none of us will be safe until all are safe. And while it may sound simple for technology transfer for vaccine production, it is really not simple. We in this region will have to mobilize our production facilities and modernize the vaccine platforms in the countries of the Americas. And we are working with partners in the Inter-American system to advance on these fronts. Attaining vaccine equity and distributing as many vaccines as possible to as many people as possible is our current goal.
She says more must be done to vaccinate the most vulnerable to reduce mortality.
We are even further from reaching the vaccination coverage that is needed to achieve herd immunity against COVID-19, about 70 to 80% of the population, and thus control transmission.
Dr. Etienne says while securing vaccines for the region is significant, her team is still urging continued use of safety protocols to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
I want to emphasize that vaccines are not yet the main method of slowing transmission for COVID-19. As we've said repeatedly, all of us on this panel, we must maintain and adjust our public health and social measures in every country. So I take this opportunity again to urge governments to keep advising their people to stay safe by practicing physical distancing, avoiding crowds and close contact with people outside their households, and practicing the wearing of masks and the frequent hand hygiene.
And thus far, PAHO's revolving fund has delivered more than 2.6 million COVID-19 vaccines from the COVAX mechanism to 26 countries, and more doses are making their way to the Caribbean. As at 10 a.m. on Thursday, April 8th, the Ministry of Health and Wellness will begin scheduling vaccination appointments for persons aged 60 years and older. Staff members from the Department of Correctional Services, Jamaica Fire Brigade, PICA, and Jamaica Customs, tourism workers and teachers and other employees of educational institutions. Persons 60 years and older should register using the online portal on the ministry's website at www.moh.gov.jm or by calling the National Vaccination Hotline at 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. Members of the other priority groups will be registered through their respective organizations. Once an appointment is confirmed, the ministry is reminding persons to arrive at the vaccination location 15 minutes before their appointment, as well as to bring a government-issued ID or a letter from the Justice of the Peace to verify their age. Civil servants and other employees of educational institutions are being asked to bring a work ID. Persons are also reminded to bring proof of appointment. Additionally, persons 60 years and older are permitted to have one caregiver with them. The Early Childhood Commission is reminding educators that corporal punishment is not to be inflicted on a child in an early childhood institution as outlined in the Early Childhood Act 2005, Section 16, Subsection 1. According to a release sent by the Commission, Section 16, Subsection 2 of the Early Childhood Act states that a mechanical or electrical device shall not be used to restrain a child in an early childhood institution. The Act further explains that where restraint of a child is necessary, such restraint shall be administered in accordance with the regulations made for that purpose. Section 16, subsection 3. The release follows a report in the press that a child in a daycare center was subject to corporal punishment. 8 members of the judiciary have been sworn into higher positions. The legal luminaries were sworn in by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen during a ceremony at King's House. Marsha Dunbar Green, Evan Brown, and Corinthia Brown Beckford were appointed to act as judges of the Court of Appeal for the Easter term. The term runs from April 12 to July 31. Anne-Marie Lawrence Granger, Tanya Mutt, Tulloch Reed, and Sandra Wong Small will serve as acting puisne judges. Their appointments became effective on April 7. Carla Thomas and Heather Carnegie were also sworn in as acting masters in chambers. Thomas's appointment becomes effective on May 3, while Carnegie took on her role on April 7. Last year, October, heavy rains associated with Hurricane Delta lashed parts of the island. This led to a breakaway in Coley District in Trinityville, St. Thomas. In this follow-up, our news team visited the area to see what's happening with that roadway.
This was the scene last October after heavy rains had caused a major breakaway to the Trinityville to Cedar Valley Road. Citizens were forced to walk across the damaged area to get to their destination. In December, the National Works Agency, NWA, repaired sections of the road to allow for vehicular access. In the same month, China Harbor Engineering Company also had some preparatory work underway to construct a major retaining wall at Trinityville Breakaway. When we visited the site a few days ago, we saw men at work. Residents were pleased to see the ongoing work.
Need the road because the road bad, and when you pay really vehicle for you come and pick you up, we have a problem. For you go mark here and if you come at the length of time that it take me through that because sometimes we up on the road because the various part of the bag are the thief them go along road and stuff like that. So we're really glad for the road is going to benefit a whole lot to it.
Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
To get the latest gas prices plus other financial market reports, we joined Gabriel Thompson at the business desk.
The Grenadian government says it cannot afford to pay public officers a 4% salary increase that is rightly due to them at this time. The Caribbean Business Report outlined a statement made by the island's Prime Minister. The government says the ongoing coronavirus pandemic has had a major effect on the economy of the country. In a radio and television broadcast last week Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell said it pained him to see that some of the teachers and the leadership of the Grenada Union of Teachers felt the need to engage in protest action in the middle of a global health crisis and during a state of emergency and breaking the laws of the land while doing so. The Prime Minister said, quote, "Government has repeatedly reaffirmed that the 4% increase is rightly due to public officers, but what we are saying is that we cannot afford to pay right now." Mr. Mitchell admitted that his administration has incurred significant additional expenses in recent months, some brought about by the fallout from the pandemic and the need to provide support to various sectors of the economy. He said so far this year the island has been able to attract 78 million EC dollars in external support. The Prime Minister said that while the projection for growth in 2021 is 6%, this will not take the island back to pre-COVID levels of real growth. In 2020, the country experienced negative growth of 12.2%, and it is projected to take 2 to 3 years for gross domestic product to recover from the significant level of output loss. According to the latest ex-refinery costs from state-owned oil refinery Petrojam, motorists should see an increase at the pumps in the prices of gasoline and a decrease in the price of diesel effective Thursday, April 8. Following an increase of $1.19 each, 87 and 90 octane gasoline will be sold for $137.89 and $140.72 per liter respectively. Automotive diesel fuel will be sold for $125.88 per liter, following a decrease of $1.37, while ultra-low sulfur diesel is down by 3 cents and will be sold for $131.10 per liter. Kerosene saw a price increase of 57 cents and will be sold for $102.10 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum is up by $2.54 and will be sold for $56.80 per liter, and butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $56.27 per liter after an increase of $2.90. Expect price changes as marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. In Wednesday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 609 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall, market activity resulted from trading in 88 stocks, of which 32 advanced, 43 declined, and 13 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 1 point to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica, 138 Student Living Variable Preference, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Epley Limited 8.25%, and First Rock Capital Holdings Limited. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with 7.8 million units, followed by Jamaican Teas Limited with 2.2 million units and Fontana Limited with over 700,000 units. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, April 7, the US dollar ended trading at $147.71. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $117.46. The pound sterling traded for $205.32, and the euro ended trading at $177.89. Crude oil prices fell on Thursday after official data showed a big increase in U.S. gasoline stocks on the back of higher refinery runs, while demand remained subdued compared with pre-coronavirus levels. Brent crude futures fell 32 cents to $62.84 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures dropped 45 cents to $59.32 a barrel. And on that note, we end this Thursday edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
If you're in the mood for some honey-glazed ribs or maybe some succulent jerk chicken, then come along this week to Culinary Trails. We make a pit stop at a Chill and Grill in Kingston.
Chill and Grill came about because my family has a farm, and throughout all the years, the meat price of pig was on a steady price despite the cost of feeds and the different inputs going up. So out of doing playing dominoes and doing a little, just throw on a grill for your friends, that was where Chill and Grill started actually 3 years ago, where we use locally grown meat, because sometimes I don't have enough on my farm, so I have to buy from Copperwood or buy elsewhere. But we use locally grown meats, and then we season. Part of our secret is that Chef and I, we season at least 5 days in advance. So it gives the meat time to marinate. And then, as you know, crispy pork, which is one of our specialties, is, oh Lord, how do you describe it apart from divine? But when you're a pork lover, your crispy pork is the best way to have pork because it's like pork served with love. That is the La Caja China box. That is the secret to the crispy pork. That is the secret to the crunchy, crackling pork skin that everyone loves. It actually was invented in Cuba, in Chinatown in Cuba, mimicking how they cook pork. You know, like bury it in the ground and put the coal on top. So the pork sits in the bottom and then you slow cook it. So you get this moist, well-cooked pulled pork effect. Awesome, awesome, awesome. In fact, some people call it the magic of the box because it's magical. One week, a customer said, I don't eat pork, can you do salmon? And we did grill salmon. And the gentleman's report, when he left here, he sent a picture. By the time he was at Manningsville Road, it was finished. So we are versatile. So we will cook what you want. But we do have steamed fish, we do have roast fish, and we do have jerk chicken like you have never had it before. Because the box, again, there's magic in the box. Always, we have barbecue pigtail, which is a Jamaican favorite. We have steam and roast fish. We have jerk chicken. We have, chef's specialty is barbecue honey glazed ribs. Now I promise you, come and taste the ribs, it will be like no other. Seasoned with love and cooked and served with passion. We use all natural products, and so it will be natural for us to do natural juices. I have a young man who is a friend of my son who makes natural juices.
Hi, I'm Nigel Brady. I am the founder of Nature's Sip, and what we offer is a myriad of flavors of 100% natural beverages, right? All homegrown produce, and you have the choice of sweetened or unsweetened. Most customers tend to prefer the unsweetened because you actually feel the wellness in it at the first sip. So initially, that's the sip of change that we intend to offer or already offering to the diets of Jamaicans.
So we are a family setting, although we can't have the gathering now because of Corona. But if you want to go someplace where you're comfortable and feel mamas love them, Chill and Grill is the place for you. What we have done because of COVID, everything has been converted to grab and go. So we invested in a warmer where we can keep the food warm, and then we schedule pickups. So if you don't want to come out of your car, you can tell us what time you're coming and we'll meet you at the gate and deliver it. Or if you want it delivered at a small cost, we'll send it to you. If you are having a private gathering and you just want awesome grilled foods, or matter of fact, awesome any foods, you can call us and we will package it and deliver it for you. Because the idea is we grill and you chill. So you just bring the orders to us and we will deliver it to you wherever you are. So you have fun and stay safe in your neck of the woods. We now cook on every last Saturday, but food is ready from 9 in the morning. So we cater to the man who wants to go bird bush or want to go beach. Him can come early, pick up him crispy pork and head to the hills. Why Chill and Grill? If you want succulent pork, if you want pork that you will lick your fingers, if you think Kentucky is finger licking, come to Chill and Grill. I promise you, you're gonna get food with love. Food served with love and with passion.
here are some stories from across the region. In Trinidad and Tobago, persons who are victims of violent crimes can now submit their applications for compensation via email. At a joint select committee meeting on Wednesday, members of the Criminal Juries Compensation Board said this assists victims in submitting their documents in light of COVID-19 pandemic. Kimberly D'Souza has the details.
According to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Act, persons who are victims of violent crimes or who have had family members die as a result of violent crimes can be compensated up to $25,000. This may increase to a maximum of $50,000 based on the advice of the Minister of National Security. Investigating officer at the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, Lester Tom, said persons can now apply for compensation electronically. The matter came up before a sitting of the Joint Select Committee on Wednesday.
So we have certain persons you can upload, you can scan, you can take. We find that photos from the camera, from our phones, take better pictures than scanning. So we have said that you can take a photo of your documents and send it to us via email.
Mr. Tom said the board has been discussing the possibility of creating an online platform so persons would no longer need to visit the office to apply. Applicants are given 1 year to submit with supporting documents.
We will accept the application with a police report, a medical report, and documents such as their identification and so on. But those two documents are the most important documents that we would need to accept the applications.
Mr. Tom said persons must also submit a police report, medical expenses, and in some cases the funeral expenses before the applications are accepted. Persons wishing to find more information about the Criminal Injuries Compensation Act can visit the Ministry of Legal Affairs website. Kimberly D'Souza, TTT News.
In St. Lucia, the St. Lucia Teachers Union is calling for an ironclad plan by the Education Ministry to avoid a repeat of the pitfalls of the reopening of school this past January. President of the union, Don Howell, says a number of gaps have been identified and need urgent attention before schools are given the green light to open their doors to St. Lucia's children later this month.
As we move along to the food term, we continue to play our part as an SLTU, to monitor, to engage the Ministry of Education, to question, and to give intervention or advice to them, hoping that they would implement some of the measures that we would have agreed to.
President of the St. Lucia Teachers Union, Don Howell, speaking ahead of the scheduled reopening of school earmarked for April 19, 2021, notes the benefits of face-to-face tuition for students whose education has been unduly interrupted by the waves of the pandemic.
Educators always want to see their students face-to-face. They always want to. The issue at hand has always been that of health and safety. And so the educators, by and large, are very hopeful that there can be some measure of stability in the education system as we move forward.
It is with this push to get back to physical classes that Howell implores Ministry of Education officials to ensure checks and balances are in order. The SLTU president also points to the issue of adequate resources needed during the pandemic to ward off the virus. Howell has challenged officials to engage in active reflection of the ill-fated January reopening of school.
The gray areas that we had in January was that if a case were to emerge in a school, the time lapse that it took before you actually knew whether it was positive, whether it was negative, to make important decisions about the continuity of education, that time frame was too long.
The SLTU president recommends greater coordination between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health on prioritizing testing for the sector. Moreover, Howell touts active monitoring of the physical plants to ensure compliance with COVID-19 protocols. The Ministry of Health has announced its vaccination for teachers, administrators, principals, and staff of learning institutions. Howell says Despite the rollout, strict adherence to protocols will remain the path taken by the SLTU.
Does the SLTU feel confident in having teachers return to school without both doses of the vaccine?
Let me just indicate that we are not the medical professionals, and so the SLTU will allow the medical professionals to speak about vaccination and to give information about the vaccines. What we know is that whether there's a vaccine or not, it does not absolve the Ministry of Education from its responsibility in ensuring that it provides the resources necessary for schools. Whether there's vaccine or not, the protocols must be adhered to. The resources are needed to ensure that the education system remains stable.
As for parents whose confidence levels in the return to the physical classrooms have been shaken and prefer their children continue to learn from home, the SLTU president says this remains in the hands of the Ministry of Education. Sula Alfred, HTS News Force.
In sports, we begin with athletics. Jamaica is expected to field a team to the 5th staging of the World Athletics Relays in Poland next month. The two-day Relays Festival is slated for May 1 to 2, and Jamaica would be one of 150 countries set to participate. The Bahamas hosted the Relays in 2014, 2015, and 2017, with Japan playing host in 2019. Jamaica was the next best bet to host the 2019 event, but the island also failed to provide the financial guarantee budget of $7 million to the ruling International Association Athletics Federation, the IAAF. In other news, the Tokyo Olympic torch relay will not run through the streets of Osaka Prefecture next week because of rising COVID-19 cases. The move is a setback for Tokyo organizers, who began the relay 2 weeks ago from northeastern Fukushima Prefecture, with 10,000 runners planning to crisscross Japan over the course of 4 months. The Olympics Open is just over 100 days on July 23. In a last-minute change of plans, organizers said in a statement Wednesday that runners and the torch will be involved in some event in an Osaka City Park on the days when the relay was to cross the entire prefecture. It was to be between April 13 and April 14. The ordeal of keeping the relay on track reminds that giant problems are likely to happen when Olympics and Paralympics take place, with a total of 15,400 athletes from more than 200 countries entering Japan. They'll be joined by tens of thousands of other officials, judges, media, and broadcasters. Fans from abroad are banned, and it's not yet clear how many local fans will be able to attend Olympic events. Tokyo Organizing Committee President Seiko Hashimoto promised a decision this month on venue capacity, but hinted last week that the announcement could be delayed. Ticket sales were to account for $800 million in revenue for the organizers, a large chunk, but small compared to the official bill for the Olympics of $15.4 billion, most of which falls on Japanese taxpayers. And that's the news. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.